back to a tariff system because this country was wealthy. The people in it were richer when we had a tariff system. That'll do away with the IRS as far as we are concerned. He's going through this constitutionally. But if you do your research and you look back, many of the things that he is pushing through are things that previous presidents promised and never did. He's finishing what Kennedy started. He's doing exactly what Andrew Jackson did. So yeah, that's why I like him. I'm a constitutionalist, and this man, it's not that he's doing it for me. He's doing it for all of us, and he's doing it according to our Constitution and our Bill of Rights.
Okay, so my answer is going to be a little bit different than Mud Rabbit's because I think she probably likes Donald Trump a little bit more than I do.
That's an understatement.
I don't have a personal thing with Donald Trump. Like I would have been fine if Donald Trump just endorsed somebody else and got somebody else into the spotlight, because prior to him running this year, I thought he was more of a divisive character to be running again. He surprised me when he showed me a different side to him. This version of Donald Trump is way different than the first version.
Yeah, it is, and it's intentional.
And anybody that pays attention knows. Yeah. Like, you can tell the difference. He's not as abrasive as the last version.
Not with us. He's abrasive with the other countries.
But what I would say is the same thing I've always said when it comes to politics. If you're worried about what's happening with you personally, you need to vote in your local elections and not your federal elections. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump, what happens to me in Illinois. Right now, Illinois has a lawsuit against Donald Trump. I live in Illinois. Yeah. And they're suing Donald Trump and his administration for what's going on. So technically, me personally, I guess if it's my area personally, has a problem with Donald Trump as a whole, because that's just how it works. So I would assume if you were to live in California, the majority of people in California probably have a Donald Trump issue.
Yeah, it also depends if you're in a Democratic state or a Republican state.
Exactly. And then the majority in said state.
Yeah.
But I don't have an issue. I would say the biggest thing that I think Donald Trump got addressed in his presidency, which I also think actually had to do more with the voters, but Donald Trump was kind of just the mouthpiece for it, was DIY projects that were going on in all of the United States. I think the voters pretty much kicked back on that, and we're like, you know what? No, we don't really want to see men fighting women in mixed martial arts or stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of things where I think men and women can compete on the same level, where it's an intellectual playing field, but not when it gets to physical prowess. Physical prowess shouldn't be compared like that.
You also have to take into consideration that there are a number of people who had information beforehand, and there are a lot of people who are only coming to the information now. So they don't have everything that some people have. And then there are people who have absolutely none of the information, and all they know is what other people say. You have to do the work. You can't depend on what other people say. You can't depend on the MSM. You can't depend on anyone. You have to get it.
To a certain extent, I think that's what some of the Q stuff is.
Yeah.
I think some of the Q stuff, it isn't people doing the work. It's people going, oh, so-and-so told me that this is what this message means.
No, that's not what I meant.
This message came from. No, I know that's not what you meant, but that's how I'm taking some of the Q stuff, because a lot of the people that say that they're into Q, they don't do research and analyze messages and break them down.
No, you have a lot of hangers on.
They jump on the bandwagon. Exactly. They jump on the bandwagon and go, oh, so-and-so posted this. This is what it's about. I just trust the source, and I don't know where he got this information, but I trust him.
In all honesty, I've been doing that lately because we moved here and I'm so absorbed with the house, so I can't do my digging anymore. But I did my share of digging, and I did my share of contribution.
And let me tell you, long. We don't have time tonight, but I would love for you to come on with Mud Rabbit sometime, and she can kind of break this down.
Yeah.
Because there's a big difference between, because you've probably heard the term QAnon, and anons are a thing and Q is a thing. And so they're actually two separate things.
Yeah.
Anons are posters, really. They're actually just people that post on behalf, and then are anonymous, of course.
We
And
do
then
research.
Q would be the person that people are doing said research on, or
What
topics
he did was
about.
he posed. They can't divulge the
Why is it a
information because,
he? Why is it a he?
well, it's the same way you call an animal a he until you figure out the sex. Actually, it's
Yeah.
less than 10 people. But whoever they are, what they did was they dropped information in the Socratic method by asking questions because they couldn't tell us directly what it was, mainly because a lot of it is stuff they can't discuss with the public. So what they did was they posed it at, like the Socratic method. They asked questions, and they knew there was a certain part of the population that would be intrigued by those questions and go digging for the information and bring it back to the source. So that's exactly what a lot of people did. And some of these people are phenomenal at what they do. I can't even step up to that. But
So
the point is that they didn't actually tell us anything. They asked us questions. So we went to resolve those questions. And in the process of resolving those questions, we found the information that was necessary.
yeah.
They made us work for it, in other words.
Yeah. Dig a little deeper,
Mhm.
They'll give you some hints, but
Right.
which
Keep
is
going.
how it should be. It should just be hints and not,
Well, this is
this
why I
is how you're supposed.
gravitated it. This
Well,
is why
because
I gravitated to it, because the Cassiopeians did the same thing.
because that's what makes me
Mhm.
mad about the news. Because now the news is this arbitrary thing where they go, "No, we're the news."
Yeah, they're
Like,
not the news
if you,
anymore. They're the opinionists.
yeah, exactly, and they expect you to think of them as the
Yeah.
news. Like, this is where you're supposed to go for the truth. Like, no, it's evolved from there. But I
Well,
wanted
you
to catch up with chat because I didn't realize this is where Canadian was at nowadays, and
hey, CP.
I wanna dial this in a little bit because I don't know where Canadian's
Okay, I
at
can
in his head
explain this
nowadays.
trade thing. I can
But
explain
hold on,
this trade thing.
I can too. The tariffs are so easy to explain, and
It's a
anybody that doesn't
bargaining
understand
chip.
them. Oh yeah, and everybody's following and watch the media because they're doing this right now. If you look into it, I would bet that the reports that we're getting back about the stock market are not true.
Yeah.
What you guys are
Yeah,
seeing
but
right
if
now
you
about
look
the
at the
stock market
bounce,
and where our money's at, it's actually not accurate.
compare the bounce that they're complaining about. It's a little niche to what happened a few years ago. And they didn't complain about it at all. They're making mountains
Or
out of
where have we
molehills.
been the last? Why are we pretending that the last 4 years have been good?
For people who have certain stocks, it has been,
Well, yes,
but
certain
not the middle
stocks were getting,
class.
certain stocks were actually getting
Mhm.
flushed. But so first, I think that Trump is just punishing people for voting him out. Fair. I think he is vindictive, but I don't think that's the sole reason. I think if he is, he's doing that as like a side hustle.
It's a
Like he,
chip. It's a bargaining chip. He's putting it on the table, going, "This is what we're going to do," and he's waiting for the counter. And what he's actually done is he's gotten several countries. See, we're the only country that we don't charge tariffs for all this stuff coming in, but every one of those countries we take goods from, they charge us exorbitant tariffs when we send trade to their companies. And some of the countries, and some of these countries, like Canada, take more from us than we do from them. So what
one,
Trump does is he puts a high bargaining chip on the table and he waits for the counter. And eventually what he's going to do is he's going to keep raising. It's like poker. You keep raising, you keep raising, you keep raising until they bust. And then they say, okay, no tariffs. And this is what they did in Vietnam. This is what they did in Taiwan. They say, okay, we're not going to charge America any more tariffs. Fine. So we take our tariffs off of you and everything is equal.
well, and this is the biggest problem that I actually had when I looked into some of the tariffs in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why when I was talking to you about them the other day, I've in my head tariffs are guns to me
Yeah,
now
that's
because
our
it's just
weapon.
easier to think about them like that. Stop
Mm-hmm.
thinking about other things. There's no other reason to worry about the numbers that much. If somebody's online gaslighting you and you don't know the definition of a tariff and you can't break it down, all you need to know is guns, and tariffs are about the same when it comes to legalization.
Yeah.
So,
Well, tariffs is how we used to run this country, was on tariffs, and we didn't pay taxes.
yeah, and we used to run this country on guns, and then people didn't have to, people didn't actually have to, talk things out. But it's one of those things that if everybody has it in the area, you need to have it. If nobody has it in the area, there's no need for it. Like tariffs are there because of this. And then when I looked at the Canadian people and I watched what they were doing in fucking Wisconsin, or what they were doing, Wisconsin produces more milk than
Yeah.
more dairy than all of fucking Canada. Okay, so take this into mind. There's huge tax on the United States for bringing dairy into Canada. Right now, it costs about $12 on average to buy a gallon of milk in Canada. It could be so much cheaper, but Canada doesn't want its
$3.49
people,
like us.
yeah, Canada doesn't want its people to have an affordable fucking glass of milk because they're too prideful about having their own cows, and they want to tax out your ability to get stuff from Wisconsin because they don't want to either work with the U.S. or they just want you buying Canadian.
Plus, ask
Like,
yourself, where are all those taxes, what tariffs going? Are they helping the people? No. Are they lowering your taxes? No. Are they bringing you better health care? No. They're not improving your life. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what tariffs are. They improve the life of the citizens. Someone's pocketing the money.
I haven't gone all the way down through the chat yet. I'm still slowly catching it up, Canadian.
I
But
wanted
if
to
you haven't
ask
said,
TP a question, though.
but yeah, if you haven't said Canadian, put it farther down in the chat. Trump is going overboard. I would like to know why you feel that way.
Probably Alberta. Is this about Alberta? Because that was the people in Alberta. They put a mandate out to Trudeau and not Trudeau. What's his name? Carney, is that his name? They said that if you don't play ball and you don't, give us some relief over here, because the whole country depends on Alberta for its energy, then we're going to secede and we're going to go with the United States. That's the poker chip they put on the table. Alberta did to the rest of Canada. But what it would do if you guys either dropped the tariffs or even became part of us, all the things that you guys are paying through the nose for, you'd be paying what we pay, which is a lot less.
I'm trying to figure out where you're at, Cyrex. I'm trying to understand what you were talking about because, like I said, I was kind of like rambling.
I saw that, and I'm getting him the website.
What were the questions that got you guys searching deep for the answers?
Kennedy's assassination, Kent State, Martin Luther King's death, all of those things happened in my lifetime, and I witnessed them, not directly, but through the news and through the media. And I've had questions all my life, and there's a lot of people my age who have the same questions, and we're sick and tired of the bullshit. Because this is not how the country used to run.
And there's newer generations of it too. My generation would go, 9/11, what do you mean? I don't feel like we're at war with the Middle East. I still haven't seen any weapons of mass destruction out there. I still think it's kind of over oil. The Twin Towers getting attacked multiple times. One was by a car bomb. One was by airplanes, apparently. The 9/11 didn't make a lot of sense for me. That was kind of when I got involved and with like, is the government fucking with me right now? And then I looked more into JFK and stuff like that. But the stuff that happened in my immediate life, it was just like, whoa. I remember exactly where I was that day. I remember rolling out the fucking TV at school and playing this for everybody. And I'm like, what am I watching right now? Like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. And then to hear somebody like George Bush come out and tell you who he thinks it was and that there's weapons of mass destruction, and then kept us in the Middle East for all this fucking time over some goddamn oil fields that people were just lighting on fire.
I remember when we went off the gold standard, everything started to get really expensive. More so, it was something like what was happening in 2008. And Nixon had to put a price freeze on everything. And this price freeze lasted for a while. Absolutely everything the consumer could buy, there was a price freeze. Nobody could raise their prices. It was great. You could go to the grocery store and the prices never went up. And back then, coupons really saved you a lot of money.
Well, so was it just for essentials like milk, eggs, cheese?
No, it
Like,
was
how did it work?
everything, cars, gas, food, everything. There was a price freeze nationwide because when they took us off the gold standard and put us on oil, people went nuts and they started raising
So
prices right away.
that's when people went off the petrodollar.
Right. So no, they
Yeah.
went on to the petrodollar and off of
Yeah.
gold. So what happened was he put the price freeze on, and I'm trying to remember what happened next. That was when we had the oil crisis. Because with the price freeze, they weren't, they play games with us and they tell us it's one thing when it's actually them arguing amongst themselves. So we had the oil crisis, which meant you had to fill your gas tank only on days that coincided with the last digit on your license plate. So you had even days and odd number days that you could get gas, and you couldn't show up on a day that you didn't match. So everything got a bit chaotic back then. At the time, we paid approximately $370 a month in mortgage for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in a super nice neighborhood. And now you can't touch that same house for less than probably $4,500 a month in
They
mortgage.
still got, well,
That's what the
yeah, when
going
I
on to
first,
oil did. It allowed them to slowly inflate us to where we're at now.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't know. I think it's I think so. The other thing that you were saying, Cyrax,
Okay,
was
Zyrak,
what if,
can I answer his
before,
question?
yeah, before we get to that question, because it's
Yeah,
farther down, I
okay.
want to, what if we bust? I think
We
this
won't.
goes to, I think this goes to the standard thing that we were talking about when we got pulled off the gold standard. Right now, I don't think the petrol standard's holding up, and I think it was a mess recently when the U.S. decided to just start printing money,
Yeah.
especially when it's not backed by anything. If it's not backed by gold, because Cyrus, I don't know if you know what Fort Knox is, what's being kept there. I would say the U.S. is in the illusion that it's our gold that's there, but we've had presidents in the past try to audit
Mm-hmm.
Fort Knox and not really allowed to do it.
They
My
wouldn't let him.
presumption, my presumption is that we're actually storing other people's gold, if any, there, and that we're getting paid to keep other countries'
Yeah.
gold there for them. That's my only guess. But because our money isn't backed by anything, which that's kind of how I feel about it now. If we switch to something like cryptocurrency, and then all of a sudden our money was backed by something, I could see us not busting. But until our money actually has some kind of financial backing,
Yeah.
I think we're always at the verge of busting. I think our whole financial system is an illusion right now.
Let's put it this way. The fiat currency is going to bust, but if you're like us, if you're like the middle class, you don't own stocks, if you don't own a bunch of properties, if you don't have a bunch of things and you're living paycheck to paycheck, it is not going to affect those people in the least. Life is going to go on for the majority of the people just like it always has. This is affecting the rich, the billionaires. Now, Zyrex said tariffs are import taxes. No, they're not. Tariffs and import taxes are two different things. The
Yeah,
higher it is, the more we, the
you get
consumer, has to pay. No,
you
the
get well,
tariffs are
you get
not.
taxed on both. So tariffs can be on both ends. They could either
No,
be for
no, no,
sending
no.
out or receiving.
Tariffs,
Well, goods coming out of the United States can be tariffed, just like goods coming out of China can be tariffed.
and they are
So,
heavily,
so,
but
so
tariffs are not the burden of the people who buy the product. Tariffs, the cost is to the manufacturer or the person shipping it. It by no way goes into the price of the goods.
no, no,
Import tax
because
does, but not
this is why.
tariffs.
Well, it depends on the direct impact that you're talking about. This is why I used Canada as an example earlier. So the people are feeling the impact of the tariff that Canada has with the United States on dairy. The Canadian people are
Hmm.
feeling the
Yeah,
effects of Canada's tariff because it's an ineffective tariff.
because it's not applied properly.
Exactly.
Now, what this tariff poker game is going to do The tariffs are not going to
It's
matter in
hopefully
the
gonna
end.
get everything pulled off the table, because
It's
this is what I
gonna
was talking about.
it's going to get our businesses back because Bill Clinton and Bush sold all of our manufacturing businesses off to other countries and made it cheaper for them to go over there and make goods because they pay the people that make them less. And that has been a burden on the American population since the 60s, since the mid 60s and on, because our manufacturing is being sent to other countries for them to make money. Well, now we're getting tired of it because not only are we doing that, but we're getting charged tariffs by all these countries for anything we send them, yet we don't charge them a tariff when it comes back. So yeah, that's why things are getting more expensive.
Exactly. So if a country is more self-sustainable, then tariffs won't affect them as much. If they're reliant on other countries, then the tariffs have a direct impact.
Yeah.
It actually makes a difference. So Canada is spending more money trying to raise their own dairy and charge their people more rather than taking the cheaper solution of just getting things from their neighbors.
I'm sure the
which is the
Canadians would
United
like to
States.
pay $4 or less for milk.
Exactly. And it would
Yeah.
be easy to do. It would be a third of the price, but we choose to do that because Canada wants people to buy Canadian.
Yeah, and Canada's not
want-
treating us fairly.
Yeah. And so, and this is why, if I can explain this any better, Cyrax, this is why I compare it to guns, is because when you think about guns in an area, like I can think of an area like having no guns where no criminals have it and no police officers have it and stuff like that, and nobody's able to access it. I'm fine with that scenario. I'm also fine with the scenario that everybody's armed and then the person is not just going to come rob you on the street with a gun because he's thinking, oh, that person might have a gun. I'm not just going to walk up to somebody that might have a gun and try to rob them with my gun and hope that I'm a better shot. Like that doesn't usually compute in
Yeah.
somebody's head. And so that's kind of how it is with tariffs. What you're seeing right now, which it's 12.
It's a
like
war of who has
12:03.
the biggest dick right now.
It's at 12:03 right now. So I was waiting to actually see what happened at midnight on Tuesday night to see what happened with China and what was going on. If anybody's been
Mhm.
following this, I believe the original percentage that Donald Trump put up was around 20 something percent.
I think it was 35, and then he raised it. He taxed an additional 50% on it when they
Okay,
got belligerent.
Yeah. So what then China fired back and said that they were going to raise it. And he said, if you raise it, and if you don't pull back what you just said, it's going to be at 50% by Tuesday night at midnight when it closes.
No, an additional 50%.
No, it'll be, I thought it was just 50%.
It was an additional on top
But yeah,
of.
it was just because that's what this is. It's just people are just trying to outbet each other on the poker table right now. And they both realize, hey, this is worthless for both of us. Neither one of us are going to do well.
And then they'll
if
drop them.
Tariffs stay in pace. And that's why, I don't know. Did you hear what Musk said about tariffs recently?
I did.
You did? And I 100% agree with him. I think
Mhm.
I think Musk is thinking the exact same way I am about it. He's
Yeah.
fine with no tariffs, as well as he's fine with everybody being at the same tariff too, because that's everybody being at the same tariffs is the same as no tariffs.
No, this is how we get to no tariffs, because what's going to happen is they're going to keep playing this poker game until everybody like Vietnam and Taiwan and a few other countries said, okay, no tariffs. Fine, then we won't charge tariffs on you. And then everything that's expensive in Canada, like milk, the price will drop. This is a
And-
poker game. We're not trying to take over Canada. We're just trying to get your politicians to do the right thing.
Let me give you another variable, Gonzo, because this will give you another perspective on it. So when you think about tariffs and you think about what China is doing something, it's more of a pump and dump situation. So what they'll do is they'll undercut all of the competition in order to put a business out because their only purpose is to make sure that they're the sole person. So they will lose money, hire, slave labor workers
Mhm.
and put a business out of existence just to keep that business out of existence and make sure that nobody else can be a competitor with them.
Yeah, just to
So
make sure they're the only
Not
ones.
always it's not always that they'll charge the consumer more in order to get it by. Sometimes they'll charge the consumer less just to put the company that's charging a little bit more out of business so that they're no longer a thing.
You
So
see
there's
this
all
on
kinds of variables.
Amazon all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
You see the same darn picture for something. Say you want to buy a bookshelf. You see the same picture for like 7 or 8 different companies at different prices, and each one gets lower and lower and lower as you view them.
Ooh, I got one for you, boss man.
Hi, boss man. This is going to bring manufacturing back to this country. You're going to have American made, and it's going to be cheap, but we're going to have a bit of chaos until that happens. We're going to have a lot of panic. It's nothing to get panicked about. It's going to be fine for regular people. The bigwigs panic. They worry they're going to lose billions of dollars, which they will. And then they transfer that panic through the MSM to us so that they can turn us into minions.
This is just for boss man, since he basically queued me up for it. So this is a flashback to
Yes, they did. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, this is a flashback to 1996.
Yep.
And this is Nancy Pelosi talking about China.
They promise us all these things, but they never give them to us.
So, in case anybody hasn't heard this, Nancy Pelosi has her own views about China and tariffs and what she thinks should be going on. It's not a very long clip, but here it is. Back when she was coherent and
younger,
didn't take as many pauses.
Does China
before the facelifts?
How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo. As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now.
That's the crazy thing, Cyrax, is Nancy Pelosi isn't actually wrong about this. This is when she was actually doing her job.
Okay, this is when Nancy Pelosi was doing her job, and then China heard that and came in and started giving her family money. And you watch how it changes.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. There's a guy that created an app where he can basically follow other people's stock investments. And he started following Nancy Pelosi and a couple other people. And
he's got a site on X.
He made millions.
Yes, he's got a site on X. It's called Nancy Pelosi Stock Trades, and he follows her stock trades very closely and posts them on X so that other people can get rich too. I just wish I had the money to invest.
President Trump wants to end globalism.
No,
it won't happen.
Yes, he does. We don't want globalism. We don't.
I don't think it'll happen. I don't think he's. I don't. It's not that I don't want him to end it. I don't think he has the ability to end it from the United States.
The processes he's going through right now will do the trick.
If he gets enough people in. What do we have?
Okay.
Would you say over? We'd say over. No. Over 60 other countries have come to the table with legitimate concerns about just dropping tariffs altogether that have been unfair players in the past, and they have reached out to talk about tariffs with Donald Trump because of what he's doing.
Right.
There's 60 countries that are down for, hey, let's get this shit off the table and let's get back to all of us supporting each other and trying to get to a point where none of us are going to fail.
Right.
But
This isn't just about our country. And this is what was told to us in the drops. And if Zyrax wants to go read them, I gave them the link to go read all of the drops. But it was made clear in the drops that this is not just for the United States, this is for the entire world. What he's doing with tariffs and with other things is going to relieve other countries as well as ourselves. And they started the process for the other countries. We're not going to be at the front of the line. We're somewhere near the back of the line. And they're saving Israel for last. We don't know what that means, but we were told point blank, we're saving Israel for last. Reason why it was never mentioned on this platform.
well, it's got me wondering how much the leaders of like other countries like China feed into our own media, because our own media is playing a game right now.
You want to
And
hear something scary? Look
well,
at
it's
what they're
very,
doing. Look at what they're doing in China right now with the tearing down of all the unfinished buildings. And you know how big and tall they build those buildings over there.
oh yeah,
They
yeah.
overbuilt. I have this sneaking suspicion. I don't have any proof, but after everything that I've been through on the board and everything I've seen through the research has led me to think that eventually they plan to empty this country out and put everybody that they had left into those buildings in that country.
Mm,
Because
I don't know.
these people,
I think they're
the
starting to
deep
realize.
state, the
I
deep
think they're
state
starting to realize
realizes
but I
that
also think they're starting to realize that they can't build crazy big buildings like that because of the earthquake scenario.
no, they still build them. They're building
And
them as they're tearing these down because it's a racket. It's money from the government to build these things. The government pays them to build them. You
we
don't
were
have
making
people to go in and do it. The government does. So these people build these buildings, and people buy the apartments like condos at very exorbitant prices. And when you buy them, they're not finished. You have to finish them yourself. But they overbuild these things intentionally because the government gives them money, for the construction companies money for every building they build. But that there was definitely overkill there, and all the rhetoric that was going on with Klaus Schwab, you will own nothing and be happy, you will eat Z-bugs, all that crap. I have a feeling that their wet dream was to get us all consolidated in that one country in all those buildings, and them take over the rest of the world, because they view this world as belonging to them, and we're useless eaters.
It's true. Feeders and breeders.
Exactly. So I got to wonder, there's got to be more to it than just, why would the government pay them to build all those buildings? And now that things are going the way they're going, they're tearing them down. They're never going to fill
So
them.
I was actually having this discussion with my mom today because I was driving around with my mom, and we went up and checked out her campground. She just came back from Florida, so we were driving around today, and I was talking to her while I was working, and we were talking about something that's getting built in our town, and we were talking about how pointless it was. They're going to put a roundabout in a spot that doesn't need a roundabout. And
They did
our
that
town
in
just doesn't.
Hollywood. They're horrible.
We just well, I mean, we've had I've been through plenty of roundabouts. I don't have an issue with them. They're not a big deal to me, but it seems like a waste of money unless it's needed at a certain intersection or something like that.
Well, the way they
So
did it in Hollywood, they didn't even round the corners. They just put it right in the middle of these little intersections, and you hit the curb every time you go around because curb is still sharp. So
yeah,
if that's all they're doing is just putting circles in intersections, that's not a proper roundabout.
yeah. And Cyrax, I'll be on for a little bit longer. I'm kind of I got a little second wind to me, but so bringing it back to what you were just talking about, what happened was in Illinois, in every one of these towns, Illinois decided to give all of this money for people to build roundabouts, specifically roundabouts, and it was it was federal money, and you had to spend it or it didn't go anywhere.
Right.
That's why my town is doing it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, it doesn't make any sense to put one here. It's just going to put us in construction for a year
Yep.
in a school zone, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to do.
They're going
And
to put a few in the easiest places and pocket the rest of the money.
but why is the federal government spending money on something like that, where they are like, oh, all of the state or all of the towns in Illinois, because I'm a small town,
Right.
I can't imagine that and we're not putting it on campus where it's like, oh, okay, it's a college town, so we got to make sure it's more accessible. Like, the federal money should go towards the college end of the town.
Yeah,
You know
or
what I mean?
bigger
Like,
bigger
that
roads,
would make
not
sense. Yeah, that would make more sense to me.
bigger
But no,
roads.
they were like, no, we're going to put it on the local side of the town where there is no college traffic. And
Oh, you're getting the same treatment we got in Hollywood in your neighborhoods.
yeah,
Fun.
and it's just like, well, it's like, why is all this federal money put aside for this?
Because not all of it is going to that. They allocate the
yeah,
money. They
that's
send
every
the
bill.
budget. They send the budget up to DC. They get the budget approved. They get the federal money. They say, okay, let's put one here, 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 and here. What are we going to do with the extra money? Well, we can't spend it on anything else. So, and then it disappears. It goes to an NGO, which then cycles it back to whatever politician that directed it in that way.
Yeah,
And this is what's
pretty
been
much.
happening to our money. What was it just today? Just today, they saved us, the normal taxpayers, $864. I want to see what that dividend's going to look like. They were saying in the beginning it was going to be 5,000, then they said it was going to be 9,000. It's like, holy moly, I think it's going to be a lot more than that.
I think some roundabouts can be good, and I think they can be beneficial, but it's very much about picking the right location.
The right
And
road, I
some of
mean,
the
like a
times, well,
2-lane highway.
some of the times a stoplight is more efficient than a roundabout. It just
Mhm.
depends on what you're dealing with traffic.
Oh, they removed stop signs. And we're not even talking about where there was lights where they gave them to us. They removed stop signs and put them in those little intersections. People
Actually, I
that
wanna
lived on those corner lots got the edges of the driveways destroyed for cars driving over it.
Actually, I want to finish this clip. She's got a little bit longer when she actually
Okay.
explains it. She actually explains it well.
Yeah,
And
she
that's why I
does.
wanted to, yeah. So let me play
This is
this out a
before
little
she
bit.
was crooked.
Yeah, 96, in case anybody's wondering. That's why she's giving the numbers from 95
Mhm.
with a perspective for 96.
In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%.
So think about that. This is how long ago they were doing the exact same thing 20 years ago.
Mhm. Even longer. That's more
So
like
30
30.
years ago.
Yeah.
They were doing it at this percent. It's probably a different percent now. But so that would tell you for 30 years, minimally, they made a 33% profit off of goods coming out of the United States.
And this is why
compared
people
to
in other
vice
countries
versa.
complain about it because they can't touch them.
Yeah, it's so weird because I don't think people break it down on that kind of level. They're like, well, this is what we're dealing with right now. It's like, well, no, Trump's actually addressing things that were a lot older.
Mhm.
Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain
Reciprocal. Have you heard that word?
industries into
for tat.
China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade.
So I was using Canada as an example earlier. So what happens is you now have farmers that are raising cows in a climate that's not meant for cows. And they probably have indoor cows that they're raising in Canada because you can't keep them outside. because Wisconsin is actually not too bad for the climate. You can actually raise cows in Wisconsin and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But instead of doing the thing that is more efficient, they put up a tariff and create jobs themselves, inefficient jobs, in order to, I guess, subsidize milk for fucking people that they don't
Yeah.
need to. I mean, that's basically what she's talking about right now. Yes, it creates more jobs for them. They're inefficient jobs when they could just get products at a better price instead of having the tariffs in the first place.
But they're still making money and we
President-
don't have the jobs.
Exactly.
And in his statement, requesting this special waiver said,
Well, and that's because, well, at least with Wisconsin, it's easier for us to just be like, all right, well, we'll just let Wisconsin produce for the rest of the United States as well as other states that produce
Yeah,
dairy.
why not?
Instead of, like we don't have to subsidize jobs. But if
You got Wisconsin, California, and Florida. They all produce milk. We all
if we
have
were
dairies.
if we were overproducing, then it would be an issue. But
Well,
we're not
that's when the good
overproducing.
becomes cheaper. When you
Exactly.
overproduce, you still go to market with what you can, and that's when the price of goods comes down.
You mean to tell me that supply and demand is a thing in the market?
Yeah. Who'd have thunk?
that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And one of the reasons that it is because well, first let me just make another point, and that is that our colleagues on the other side of this issue will say the trade with China, exports to China have increased 3 times in the last 10 years. They have. But they fail to mention that imports from China have increased 11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit. The other issue, in addition, if intellectual property is a $2 billion, $3 billion loss, technology transfer is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If you want to sell to China, your products into China, the Chinese insist that you open a factory there. They misappropriate your technology, open factories of their own, and then say to you, now we want to see your plan for export.
And now we're doing this
Yeah.
with healthcare.
Yep.
When other countries are offering healthcare to people, and we came up with an actual like cure for something or a remedy for something, and they're giving it to other people for free, and we can't offer free healthcare to people because we're busy taking care of all of these other countries in Europe and doing more in NATO than any other country. This is why our country doesn't have enough to give around to everybody. Yes, we have a big military. That's where we kind of subsidize. Okay, we'll help protect everybody, or we'll help do this for everybody. Like, and people just don't see the big picture of it, and it drives me.
Yeah. Well, they
up the
don't
wall.
understand the math, and they need something like this to explain it to them.
It's so simple, but it's
Yeah, but
it's like when you see somebody like this that's speaking out of her mouth, most of the time you don't know, oh, okay, she did actually use to talk
it's simple
normal.
for you, it's simple for me, but it's not simple for a lot of people because number one, people don't like change. Number two, people don't like to study. They don't like to work hard. They already got it hard enough with their job, their kids, the house, everything. And you can't blame them. 5 o'clock comes, everybody just wants to put their feet up. They're exhausted. And this is the whole system keeping you too busy. Keeping you too busy to go and find out what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
and
you
that's what they
have
want you
people,
to do.
and then you
Just
have
leave
young
them and
people.
don't look into it.
Exactly. And then you have young people out there who just want to do the next cool thing and want to be with the in crowd and be colorful and all this other stuff when they're not thinking seriously. They've got their heads in the clouds.
Yeah. My girlfriend gave me Jody gave me a really realistic version of like her thought process the other day. She saw a Tesla driving around and it had a bumper sticker on it.
Uh-huh.
And the bumper sticker said, "I'm not a Nazi. Please don't burn my Tesla," or something like that.
Yeah.
And it said like something like, "I'm just trying to save the environment. Please don't burn my Tesla."
Yeah.
And her thought process behind it was, who the fuck buys a Tesla and puts a bumper sticker on it?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so realistic. Like, that
Yes,
makes
it
so
is.
much sense. Like, yeah, who's going to invest that much money into an electronic car and
And
then be
stick
like,
something
oh,
to
yeah,
it.
I want to put a fucking sticker on it.
I don't like them. I don't like electric cars. I wish I had my car. I mean, my poor car is just gone now. And now I have to
Most people
drive an
don't.
automatic.
Most people don't realize the electronic cars that you're bombing. Most of these people aren't right wing people.
No, they were their own kind. They bought it to save
No,
the
it
environment.
would make a lot more sense if you were trying to attack people on the right. If you went after
Right.
pickup trucks,
Yes.
like, to be fair, not cyber
Well,
trucks.
that's it. Can you imagine imagine them going after a dually carrying a Trump sign with a gun rack in the back? No, they'll go after the Tesla. And most of those Tesla charging stations are diesel run. So what the hell?
I mean, the difference is you don't feel a protester underneath the Cummins engine like you do like you do a Cybertruck. I feel like there's sensors on a Cybertruck that'll let you know
And
there's a
cameras
sign
and
and this is what
cameras.
it says.
You don't want the cameras. This is the other stupid thing. Anybody can look up a Tesla and see all the features it has. Anybody who's into digging any kind of information has already dug on a Tesla just to see what it's got. And you would
Well,
think they know they have the cameras all the way around. And even
yeah.
though it's getting reported that people are getting caught because of these cameras, stupid people are still doing it.
Oh yeah. You can't fake stupid.
No, you
That
can't.
doesn't change over time.
I swear they got dropped on their heads in the delivery room.
Oh my goodness. Like
It's
God,
it's there's no common sense. There's just
they
no
had
common
that
sense.
what was that national protest day? Did you have a bunch of people protesting?
No, not here.
No? Okay.
No,
So
they wouldn't dare do it down here. They get hooted right out of town.
in Illinois, of course they did.
Yeah.
We had we had one locally,
Was
and
that the old farts that were out there with the signs and they had the sheets of paper telling them
oh,
how they were
there was young farts and old farts and everything, and they were posting it all over the community pages on Facebook.
Mm.
And I think I was on my business page at the time. And I saw a picture and I just thought I'd play with everybody because they posted the picture and it was clearly the left that was protesting, and I saw a Ukrainian flag. So I said, hey, what side am I looking at? Is this the pro-Nazi side or the anti-Nazi side? And I baited in this I don't know. She was probably under 30.
Karen,
She was an Air Force veteran.
she
So
says.
no. It was
It
legit. Well, I
really
mean,
is?
it
Okay.
was backed up on Facebook. I didn't look into it that deep.
Yeah.
I guess she could have faked it on Facebook, but I wasn't going to question her military judgment quite yet. So I got her to drag into the conversation with me. She was like, "Oh no, that's just a Ukrainian flag, and that has nothing to do with Nazis." And I was like, I'm not talking about like Nazis, like the reinterpretation of them today. I'm talking about like World War II Nazis. I was like, there's World War II Nazis in the Ukraine. And I was like, I was under the impression that the US was sending money to the Ukraine during times like when they were against Russia recently. And she was like, well, yeah, that's because Putin is a dictator and he's kidnapping people and he's
It's
doing
not.
this and that. And I said, well, I was under the impression that we had an agreement with Russia that NATO wasn't going to encroach on any more land in Russia.
Yeah.
And then we kind of broke that agreement, and that's what led to the conflict. And then she immediately stopped talking. We no longer had
Yes.
a conversation after that. And then I realized that everybody had liked my comments that I was saying,
Yeah.
going back and forth with somebody.
It
because
gives
I
you
thought they
faith
were
in
listening.
humanity that there's more common sense thinkers out
Yeah.
there when they like your
Yeah.
comment.
Well, it's just like, hey, I know I'm not the only one that thinks this way, but yeah, that's all the signs. They were just Trump and Elon Musk. And I got into another debate with somebody else, and they were talking about how because me and you talked about this, I don't know, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. We were talking about Elon Musk's security clearance.
Uh-huh.
And somebody was like, oh, yeah, Elon Musk is looking at all of our social security
No, he's
information
not.
and he shouldn't be looking at all of this stuff and blah, blah, blah. I was like, first of all,
That came
he's
from
had-
Maxine Waters.
he's had top security clearance for a long ass time. And he can look at things way more important than your social security information.
Mhm.
And also, he doesn't care about your social security information. Once again, he's a millionaire. He's not stealing a dollar from you.
He's a billionaire.
Exactly. Several times over. It's
Lord.
just, I don't know. Just people's thought process just throws me off.
They don't
So
finish
off.
the process. That's it. They just come up with the thing and NPC.
Yeah.
Some of them you can explain it to them and they go, "Oh, okay," because we're seeing that happen now over on X, where people who were formerly Democrats and liberals are now disgusted with the party. So now, because of their disgust, they're opening up and starting to listen to what it is we've been saying. And now they're going, "Oh, okay, I'm with you guys now. I have nothing to do with them because I'm not like that. I don't support this, I don't support that, and this is crazy. So no, I don't belong to that party anymore." And of course, all of us in the Patriot community welcome them. Welcome to the
You're
other
talking ab-
side.
Are you talking about Tijuana? Boss man, I would assume Tijuana is crazy regardless of stoplights or stop signs or I don't know. It's just
I hear the
me.
tequila is really good.
Right. Here they grow a good agave this time of year.
Yeah. But you know, it's just, and people are waking up and they're starting to see it. But like we've said so many times before, you don't have this kind of reset or ascension or shift or whatever you want to call it without a lot of chaos.
Oh yeah. Hit her up
People
with some
don't want to
feathers.
change, and there are people
Well,
that are going to be resistant.
Well, and a lot of people are going to bail on this tariff idea because they're going to follow the media and they're going to get scared out of it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of actually why I wanted to press Canadian a little bit. And then it's because I think a lot of young people are actually going to back out of this when they think it's not going well, rather than being like, okay, you know how we were talking about 5-6 years ago? We need
Yeah.
to build America. We need to buy things locally. We need to
Yeah.
support small
Buy
business.
American.
This is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you hold this out and do it right, it'll be more beneficial for everybody.
CP, where we go one, we go all. We're not leaving anybody behind. We're trying to make it good for everybody else. But you and me and Jacob and all of us here are not big, important billionaires with corporations that are at risk. We're just working to pay the groceries, the rent, the mortgage, whatever. It's not going to affect us the way it's going to affect them. At this point, you really should sit back and enjoy the show because it's going to be amazing. I mean, they're already starting to panic, and some of them have disappeared. Some of them have stepped down from their posts. Some of them are dead. So,
Yeah. They get silenced pretty quickly when it comes.
you
when it
can't
comes to
stop what's
circus.
coming. It's coming regardless whether you like it or not. And this is what I tell people who
I
throw
think it
this
depends.
liberal
It
panic
depends on
at
how many
me.
people. It depends on how many people back it. I think enough people could back out where Trump could fail.
No. We're not talking about Trump. We're talking about the plan that was set in motion in the 60s. It's coming. It's happening. It's going to finish. And we're winning. We're already winning.
I would say we're going in the right direction, and I don't know what plan you're referring to, but just in general, with what he's trying to do with these tariffs, if the media keeps running with this and people keep lying about what's going on with the stock
Okay,
market,
you know what the
and they
plan
scare enough of
is?
the public,
A
then
big part.
yes,
A big part of the plan is to actually give us all the things we were promised since Kennedy was shot. Every single thing, every good thing that we have voted a man in for never, ever materialized.
true.
Ever.
It also
And now
comes
you
from
have
people-
Nancy Pelosi before she's crooked telling you exactly what it is he's telling you now. What he's doing is he's taking that, what the Democrats promised us back then, he's giving it to us. Kennedy was a Democrat.
So let's break that down simpler, because how many politicians, regardless of Republican or Democrat, how many of them followed through on most of their political.
Most none. But see, that's the whole point. Trump is only a Republican because he had to register as a Republican to run as president because he belonged to the Democrat Party
He's
most
an
of his
independent.
life.
Yeah, I would say he's an independent.
So he's more uniparty or more independent, whatever it is you want to call it. But there's going to be a third party that's going to come out of this. The Democrats are not going to survive what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
not going to
and
survive.
I told somebody that, and I actually had to like over explain it in order for them to get it because
Yeah.
in the beginning of the conversation, they were like, how did you go from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump? And I said, it was actually kind of easy. It wasn't actually that hard. I was like, I went from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump because I wanted to see if Bernie's ideas could pan out. And then what I watched when the Democratic Party started attacking Bernie Sanders,
He sold out.
and then yeah, I expected him to do was not yield to the Democratic Party because I had all these people in my chat that were going, oh, well, he doesn't take money he only gets money from private donors. They're not actually from medical facilities.
Well,
and stuff like
RFK
They
blew
weren't
that
actually
out of the
from-
water in the hearings and exposed him
RFK
for
didn't
taking
actually.
it.
RFK
He took it
didn't
from
blow that up.
pharma.
Fact check it. It's not false. It's not false. What Bernie Sanders claims. Those were from private donors. My issue with Bernie Sanders was when you yield to the Democratic Party, all of that money that you just got from private donors, you just said, here you go, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
This is yours now. I know you already got all the money from the other fucking like major donors that were the pharmaceutical companies that wanted you to get hired. And now I got all these private votes and I'm just going to yield them to you and all of the money that came with it. He didn't give back the money to the private people that sent it to him. The nurses that were
Right,
individually
right.
sending him money, they didn't get that money back.
No, he
It
got
went to
another
the
beach
Democratic
house.
Party. Yeah. And it went to the Democratic Party because he announced that he was yielding to Hillary. So
Yeah.
as soon as he showed me he didn't have a backbone, I was like, oh, I can't.
Yeah, but
can't
see,
follow him anymore.
that's the problem with these younger voters is they don't understand. We all knew he never had a background. The guy never had a legitimate job in his life. And back in the 60s, he was
Which is
stirring
fine.
up
I just
trouble.
expect, which is fine. And if he wants people to wait in breadline, like I listened to all of his old shit. And my thing was, if you can show me something that worked, because Vivek Ramaswamy and him both presented the same ideological idea that after college you should work
Yeah.
for your country in some way, whether it's community service, whether it's military service, whether it's something.
That's another
And
thing
you
they
should
took
be
out of
required.
that's another thing they took out of the high schools. They used to have ROTC.
And civics, they still do have ROTC, but it's voluntary.
Not down
And it's
here.
not, yeah. But they still have it out here. They have an ROTC just at the college I go to as well.
We
Or,
used
well,
to have
State College in
4-H
Wickham.
too, and you don't see 4-H as much as you used to. As a matter of fact,
4-H
I haven't
got
seen it in
pulled-
years.
4-H got pulled out of schools, and I think they changed the name of it.
It's not the same.
What do they call it now? Gosh, there's a whole nother name for the program now. It's not even called 4-H anymore.
Yeah. And you don't even
But,
have Girl Scouts around here. Florida used to be crawling with brownies and Girl Scouts. You don't see any.
Yeah, true. But Girl Scouts, I think it was a racket. Boy Scouts ended up getting Boy Scouts is about as corrupt as the Catholic Church.
Maybe Girl Scouts was a racket, but I'll tell you one thing. I learned a lot of stuff in Girl Scouts.
But that was old Girl Scouts. Girl Scouts
Yeah.
turned into a racket when they were just about selling fucking cookies.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
and
we sold
cookies-
cookies. We sold
and
the
the
cookies too.
Yeah, but you didn't know how, like, nowadays Girl Scouts don't know how to make a fire. They don't know how to fucking,
That's true.
they couldn't
That's
sew
true.
a patch. They don't have a bunch of patches and shit from the shit they learned.
Well,
Like, I
we had the
remember,
book. You had the book, and you had to do all the assignments in the book to
oh yeah,
get the
you had
patch.
requirements. Yeah, you had
Yeah.
requirements.
And then you had
But-
to have your parents sign off of it, and your troop leader sign off of it, and then you got your badge. You put it on your sash, and you turned the page and did something else.
But now it's just another fucking kid at school selling candy bars.
Yeah,
It's not,
yeah,
and then they win some kind of fucking award for selling the most candy bars.
Yeah.
Good job.
We were sitting here one night years ago watching.
That's
It
people.
was,
That's actually some money people should look into. Is where all the fucking money from Girl Scouts
yeah, where does
goes.
it go on? And now
And
they're
it's helping
finding.
women. Like if it'd be great if it was helping women's shelters or something like that
Yeah,
to support
yeah,
back to
yeah.
women.
Now, we were sitting here the other night, not the other night, years ago when Survivor was coming on TV. When it was a new show, and we never really got into it. We watched a couple of episodes, and we would laugh at it because he and I used to go camping in the rough every summer with our kid down in the Keys. I mean, just, rough it on a beach somewhere. And these people on this show were such prima donnas. It just kind of gave me an idea of where our populace was going. And now you see these kids with their noses in their iPhones, and you hold up a bug or something in front of them and they're screaming and running. I mean, what happened to kids? They've got nothing anymore. They're soft.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I just looked up. Okay, so the first first question I looked up was, what does Girl Scout money, or where does Girl Scout money go? And AI
Salaries?
didn't have it. And then AI didn't have an answer for this one again.
Did you ask
And
Grok?
no, I'm not going into Grok every
No.
time because the pain to pull it all up.
Oh.
But then the next one that I pulled up was, what percentage of Girl Scout cookies money goes to the troop? What would you guess? How much of it
None.
actually goes to the
None.
troop? No, they get a percentage.
Oh, they do?
Yep,
Oh, I'll give it a generous 15%.
that's pretty generous, and it's pretty fair. It's between 10 and 20% go to the troop that actually sold the cookies.
The one troop that sold the most cookies?
No. Each so if
Oh,
each
so you
troop
had to sell the
sells,
cookies to get any of the money.
yes, exactly. If you don't sell any cookies, you don't get any percentage of the money, of course. The girls,
When I was a Girl Scout, the way we understood it was, as I got older into juniors, that the money went to the Girl Scouts of America Association, and then the troop leaders would submit requests for expenses to take us on field trips and take us camping, to do things like that. But see, the Girl Scouts don't do those things anymore. So where's the money gone?
so they have it broken down, but this seems kind of AI. They said the top one, it says troop proceeds. The girls within a troop decide how to use their portion of the cookie money, often for community service projects, educational trips, and badge activities. And then the local council decides, uses the majority of the proceeds to fund local programming, maintain camps, and provide scholarships and support volunteer training.
But they're
And then
not doing that.
a little bit of it goes to the baker costs for making the cookies and the distribution. And for the girl rewards, some of the money goes towards girl rewards, such as patches and other incentives for selling cookies. The council service, a portion of the money is used for council service, including customer service, financial assistance to girls and volunteers, and for support for volunteers. Member support, a portion of the money is used for member support, including for new and veteran volunteers, training, marketing. So it's a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, pretty much anymore.
There's a trickle down economic.
And the little girls are way down on that bottom level, just like real life. Lord. And kids nowadays are not learning the things in the Girl Scouts that we were learning.
Girl programming and experience. A portion of the money is used for experiences in the areas of STEM, outdoor skills, leadership opportunities, and more support of bronze, silver, and gold and Rose Award projects.
Oh, blah, 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 blah. What have they actually done for the little girls?
Anything else that sounds good?
I want to know what they did for the brownies.
They got them patches according to the patches that they wanted to get, is what it
Yeah,
said.
do you, were you in the Boy Scouts?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, then you know how big those patches were.
Yeah.
And back in 1965 or 63 or whatever, those patches probably cost a dime a piece.
You know what I quit? You know what I quit the Boy Scouts over?
Hmm.
Uh, we all had to make fucking box cars one day. not not ones that you rode in, but the ones that you put on a ramp and
Yeah.
like
Coasted.
push down a ramp. And then we got a badge for it. And it was me and my brother, and I don't know, I was probably 6, something like that. And I remember telling my dad, I'm like, I'm so done with this. Like, I want to just do wrestling full time. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm done dressing like this and wearing a tie to come build fucking cars with
Yeah,
other
we had to wear that
race
green
them.
dress.
Oh my gosh. It was so silly. And yeah, and then I started wrestling full time and gave up Boy Scouts. And then like 2 years later, my brother gave up Boy Scouts and came and joined me, and we both were wrestling. And then we were done with Boy Scouts after
Were you
that.
doing something
But
physical?
but yeah, I mean, we were camping every weekend anyway. Like we were already like outdoors. We
Yeah.
weren't learning anything from Boy Scouts that our dad hadn't taught us. Like I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, I learned a lot of it in Girl Scouts because I didn't have a dad at home
Did you get a
during
badge for
those
helping an
years.
old lady across the street?
No, nothing like that. We got sewing badges, cooking badges, baking badges. We got badges for all kinds of things. But I was heavily into it. I mean, I went to the once a week meetings, everything, had the dress, had the sash, I had the pins, the whole 9 yards. And then we moved to Miami. There wasn't a Girl Scout to be found in Miami at that time. And hardly, we were living where we were living, it was hard to find anybody who spoke English. So that was a big culture shock. And that's when Girl Scouts ended for me. I don't know. I don't think kids these days have enough life skills. A lot of them go out in the world, they don't know how to cook, they can't mend a hem. It's always do this for me, or I'll pay you to do this for me.
Okay.
And they have a
So,
hard time understanding that that's somebody's time.
Gonzo, the AI has an answer for you on this. Let's see. So I asked the AI, are Girl Scout cookies good for you? Because I was kind of curious.
Wait till you see
So-
what's in them now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so while Girl Scout cookies are a fun treat, they're not a healthy staple and are high in refined carbohydrates, sugar, and fat, with some being particular high in saturated fat, which is kind of what you would expect out of a cookie.
Yeah.
While Forbes reports that there is no evidence that cookies pose a health risk based on current regulations, some studies have raised concerns about heavy metals and pesticides inside of the
Yeah.
cookies. And this is where the safety concerns come in. Some studies have found traces of heavy metals and pesticides in Girl Scout cookies. The Guardian reports that a lawsuit alleges that Girl Scout cookies contain heavy metals beyond safe limits.
Mhm.
The Girl Scout cookies say that the cookies meet all food and safety standard regulations. The FDA
Yeah,
and
those are corrupt
USDA
too.
allows residual pesticides and metals in foods at levels deemed non-harmful. That was the other thing
Okay.
I was actually
They
talking about
always-
with my girlfriend was that a lot of towns and counties are now no longer getting the option to opt into fluoride in the water as a benefit. They can no longer choose that option.
Well, they're
because
protesting.
They're realizing that it's not beneficial for them to
No.
push that to the public. So they're actually having to pull back the idea of pitching it like, hey, this might be a good idea. And the only people that are actually kicking back about it are like the Food and Drug Administration, the Heart,
Yeah.
the Heart Something Council. I'm like, this is just wild that health organizations are pushing back against putting fluoride into your body.
Yeah. It's things are really changing. But on the Girl Scout cookies and the heavy metals, I think it's the two most popular that have the most heavy metals in
Yeah,
them.
it's the coconut,
The
the
Samoas
Samoans or
and the Thin
whatever.
Mints.
Yep, those are the two worst ones for you.
Yeah, and they say, what's a serving? 2 or 3 or 4?
Who eats 2 or 3
Let
or
me
4
ask you
cookies?
something.
I eat them by
How
the sleeve,
many?
Mud Rabbit. I eat them by the sleeve.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how many Thin Mints can you stop at?
I don't remember who the comedian is, but it's like one of my favorite jokes that he says, and it's about Fig Newtons. And he's like reading the box and he's talking about the serving size. And he goes, it's 2 Fig Newtons. He goes, who the fuck eats 2 Fig Newtons? I eat them by the sleeve.
That's true. That's very true. And I tried to be good when we would have them. We don't buy them anymore. It's been years, but I can still remember how they taste. And we would get like 3 or 4 boxes of the Thin Mints and shove them in the back of the freezer. And then we'd take one out for eating on, and we'd try to save the other 3. And you put it in the freezer, and you have about 3 or 4 of them or 6. And then an hour later, you're back for 6 more. And
Right.
before you know it, that box is gone.
Yep. My mom she'd buy a house box, which is for like the boys and my dad. And then she'd have her boxes.
For a box. My
hidden.
mom did that too.
They were hidden from everybody else.
I know.
But if you knew where to look, I mean, she hid them in the same spot she hides the Christmas presents. So you knew where to find them.
My mom was good. My mom always had a chocolate stash of something, and no matter how hard you looked, you never found it.
Oh man, that was the best part about living with 3 boys. Is one of them was always down for looking for the Christmas presents with you. One of them would tell on you if you found them.
Yeah.
And I was the middle kid, so I was down kind of for everything. I was just trying to figure out whose team I was on that day.
Isn't it true that the middle kid can be bribed?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I feel like any kid can be bribed though. Any kid.
Yeah.
Oh man. Cyrax, I'll give you a little bit longer, but I didn't know how long you were talking. I didn't know. Man, it's almost 1 a.m. my time. I figured the kids are in bed by now.
Well, she's probably on the West Coast or somewhere where it's still nightfall.
She's in the Cali.
Yeah.
She's in that Cali area. She told me, because she was mad at me when I was on my trip that I didn't stop by. She's like, next time, just hit me up. You guys don't have to drive around and, crash at random places. And I was like, well, I appreciate that. I was like, I don't know you, though, Cyrax. I was like, but I appreciate it. And it's very nice of you.
I hate to drop in unexpectedly on people because I know with me.
People I've never met before. Yeah.
Especially, even people I know. See, with me, it's awkward.
Like Herman, I would have done it to Herman. Like I tried to schedule that. Like me and Herman almost met up. But no, I couldn't do it to somebody that I didn't know that well.
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, I don't like when people just drop in on me unexpected either.
Oh my gosh. That used to be something that drove me nuts about my cousins. They used to try to open my door handle when they showed up at my house. And they would just show up at random times. Yeah, they would just try to turn the door handle and walk in. And then they'd be like wondering why it was locked sometimes. I'm like, because I have a house with a fucking family. Like, you don't need to just be like they didn't know you were stopping by. I didn't know you were stopping by. Don't just walk into somebody's house.
Yeah. And Florida, and up here in Central Florida, when I was young, we'd only lock the doors at night. And then in Miami, when we moved to Miami, we learned you lock every door every time. Your car, your house, whatever has a door on it, you lock it. But then there's my family's farm in Kentucky. They probably don't even have a key for that lock because it hasn't been locked in decades. Because they're in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, and nobody needs to lock their houses up there. And when we went up there the last time, they weren't home. And this is my family, so I understand the procedure. And my husband was going, well, maybe we should wait in the driveway until they get back. I said, no, we'll go on inside and sit at the kitchen table and wait for them to come back there. He said, no, we can't go in the house. They're not home. It's like, this is my family. This is how we do it here in Kentucky. We don't do it in Miami, but we do it in Kentucky.
If I have to explain to one more kid
Yeah.
about how fucking trick or treating works, if that house light isn't on, if that porch light ain't on,
I
stop
know.
knocking
We're
on their
not
goddamn
home.
door. You fucking, they might be home. They're clearly not giving out candy.
I gave up on Halloween years ago.
Oh,
I think the
gosh.
last great Halloween I had, my son was 7 years old. Every year since then that I have gotten dressed up for Halloween, I've had no trick-or-treaters and my decorations have been for nothing. And every time I don't get dressed up and decorate because I think, "Oh, I'm not going to get anybody," I get
That's when they all
kids.
show up. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Um,
last year in Dania, I didn't go buy candy. I put up 3 ghosts and that was it, just to let them trick-or-treaters know they got a treat there. And I had a bunch of bracelets that I had made from the resin,
yeah.
and I gave those to the little girls, and I had lizard keychains I gave to them, because when I'm doing resin work, I have leftover resin, so I throw it in the small molds. And you
Nice.
make some pretty cool things that way. So I made lizard keychains for the boys and bracelets for the girls, and they were thrilled with them, and it didn't cost me a cent.
Nice. And that's a fun little something different, you know.
Yeah, and it's something they can keep. They're not going to rot their teeth. And
I used to put, oh man, we used to have issues with the ladies that gave out pennies and shit.
yeah, I know.
Um, there was a guy on my block, older black man, who he would go out and buy cases of pop for Halloween, and
Mhm.
he'd give you a choice of like 6 different like sugary sodas, and it was so bad for you, but it's just
Oh
like, oh,
man, but that
it
would
was
be a
great.
treat for a kid.
Loved it.
I remember one year when we lived in Hollywood. My son was in high school up in North Carolina, and we were over in Hollywood, Florida, and we had some people come around and trick or treating. And this one guy came with his kids, and he looked like he had been through the ringer, like he'd been working all day and he was tired, but he still had to take the kids out trick or treating. And he's standing at the door, and I'm going, I was laughing. I said, "It's too bad we don't have treats for adults." He goes, "No, but I really need a beer." I said, "Hold on." I handed him a beer, and he was the happiest camper in the world.
Oh, we like that's always good too. You'll go trick or treating and there'll be a random house with a garage door open, and
Yeah,
they'll have a
supportive
grill
parents.
going. Oh yeah, and they got apple pie shots and they
Yeah, yeah.
they're ready to party. All right, so Gonzo, I'm gonna make the prediction right now. This is why RFK is gonna get impeached. He's gonna get impeached because he fucking tries to put a ban on Samoas and fucking Thin Mints. Sorry, guys, it's
Oh,
the heavy
you want to?
metals.
I'll tell you something weird that happened to me. Um, when they started cutting back on Medicaid benefits, the state cut back on my SNAP card, my food stamps. They cut it in half, and I was like, oh, borderline panic, because I'm like, okay, don't panic. There's got to be something good coming out of this. I trust my governor. I know there's got to be something good, but $77 a month is not going to do me for groceries. So I waited and I was patient, and I didn't get anything in the mail, and I didn't get any notification. So I went to Walmart the other day to get the groceries. And you know how once every 2 or 3 months you got to do the really big one because you're out of everything. So I went, and that was that trip. And the bill came to over $200, and I was sweating it. And I was like, well, at least I'll probably have something on the SNAP card, before I have to put my credit card in there. And I threw the SNAP card through it, and it didn't go. And I was like, well, shoot, this is going on my credit card. And then I remembered I have this card that my insurance gave me called For Healthy Foods. And it was supposed to be for $50 a month in addition to the food stamps. And I swiped that just to see if I still had the $50 on it. It paid for absolutely everything on the check except the Coca-Cola.
Oh, nice.
I had grabbed a 6-pack of Coca-Cola because Mr. Mudd was coming home and he likes his rum and cokes. And it didn't pay for that. And I was like, whoa, that was over $200, and it picked up the whole bill. So I'm in shock, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know how the Medicaid is working with my insurance company, but I got my insurance through Medicaid. So apparently some part of this program is going someplace else, but it's still benefiting me better than it did before.
That's good.
So I'm really surprised. I mean, I see a lot of people on X complaining their food stamps got cut. And I'm like, yeah, well, mine did too, but
Usually there's a reason.
yeah,
And the purpose of food stamps, unless you're retired and it's, something like
yeah,
that, where you're expected to be on it for a period of time,
right.
usually these things are like gap insurance.
Yeah,
They're
they're only
supposed to
supposed to
get
help
you
you.
to another point. They're supposed to get you back on your feet.
Right.
Not, this isn't a livable thing. That's why they pay you. Like, that's why unemployment is like half of your regular wage.
Yeah, well, it was
Because they want you
originally
to get
meant
out and
it was originally meant for retirees and for, like you said, people who needed help while they were getting back on their feet. But what
yeah.
happens is they get a little bit too comfortable with it and they just stay on it.
Oh yeah, if you can
And
make,
then
well, if you can make free money work, and you can
Mhm.
live off of free money, and maybe have a little bit of a side hustle that you don't report, then why wouldn't you just not work and
but
make
there's no
like
way you can get away with a side hustle these days because of the technology.
a
If
kinder?
you
Well, no, that's not
Cash
true.
App, Cash App, Zelle, anything that you use technology to take donations, say through YouTube, the
Oh yeah, so
IRS, the IRS is privy to.
you're talking about anything outside of local.
Right.
Yeah,
Unless you're
you
doing
can run a
cash under
local
the
business.
table.
Yeah, you can run a local business.
I don't have the time or the space for it yet.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's
like,
easy to do. It's easy to do, like, because I pick and choose how much of my financial stuff that I claim a year,
mhm.
and it's based on how much of it goes through my name and how much of it goes through my company name.
Right,
And
right.
my company name is also separate from, because I have an LLC.
Yeah.
I had to open an LLC when I was
Yeah, we had a
20, 20
501c
yeah, I
something.
think it was 27 when I opened my LLC.
Mhm.
And because I had to keep it separate, because at the time I was getting, it was around the time that the first time I got monetized, and I was getting like weird amounts of donations in. And then I was sharing my PayPal with the people that I was working with. So not only was my PayPal getting payments through for YouTube, but it was also getting payments through for my company. And then a little after that, PayPal started sending out W-2s, and they hadn't done that yet. This is the first time they were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to send you a 1099 or whatever, so that you can claim all your funds." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, it's gone another way now. Because I remember when it happened, Jake Hudson changed up all of his wording about how he was taking donations rather
Yeah.
than I don't remember what he was
Well,
calling it
even
before.
donations they want to know about because Medicaid, you have to pay it back if you're going to be making outside income that they know about.
Well, and for a period, that, I mean, it's already been in tax law for the longest time, is you can only get
Right.
donations to a certain amount. Somebody can only gift you so
Yeah,
much.
but then in my case, I'm retired and my Social Security was not enough, so that's why I had to go on Medicaid. I don't have disability or SSI or anything like that. But what happens is every year Social Security gives you a raise. And when you reach that threshold, then you come off of Medicaid and go on to Medicare because now you can afford the 148, 150 bucks a month.
I think another thing that people are dealing with, and that society as a whole is having to adjust to, is people tapping into retirement too early, because there's huge penalties on tapping into your retirement too early. And what's
Retirement
happening is,
funds, yes, but not your Social Security. You can collect
no, Social
at,
Security is dead. Yeah,
yeah,
Social Security is already set, and it's based on hours worked in previous experience.
yeah.
The only difference is those other things that we're talking about, those bonuses, are given to you by certain companies that you worked for, and they have stipulations that come with those. So it's like, if people are pulling those out too early, they're not realizing that they are doing a huge detriment to themselves. Like my dad worked for the union for 25 plus years. He's already worked and he still works there. He could have probably been retired by now, but during the recession that happened during Obama's administration, there was a decent recession. And I think at the time, my parents wanted to pay off their house or something like that, and it made more sense for them to tap into it. And they just recently in the last, because I remember going on a vacation. It was the first time I ever went on a vacation when I was younger, because we were in sports my whole life. So every weekend we were staying at a hotel and traveling around to a different gym for wrestling. So I could only imagine how expensive that was. Like, I'm thinking about it now, and I know with like what Gonzo's saying, cost of living rising, how much it would cost to take my daughter to a hotel every weekend so that she could compete or perform or anything like that with other students. I don't know how I would be able to afford something like that, especially
It's
with
all
prices
gotten too
nowadays.
expensive. I mean, this is why kids have their noses in their phones, is because it's boredom. There's without it, they're bored. There's nothing. There's no activities.
Oh yeah. Well, I couldn't imagine how much it would cost to obtain like some of those same activities that we had when I was younger.
Well, I can
It's
give
so
you a
weird.
general idea. When
Welcome back,
we were
Sarah.
living in Hollywood and my son was a teenager, South Florida is not a good place for teenagers. There's so many ways they can get into trouble. So we gave him lessons. We gave him flying lessons. We gave him parachuting lessons, guitar lessons, taekwondo lessons. We kept him busy. And he didn't have time to get into trouble. And I think the flying lessons and the skydiving lessons were the things that kind of propelled the responsibility into him, because all of a sudden he realized he was in a situation where he had to be responsible regardless of how he felt. And he was still a teenager when he was doing those things. But you put them in a position where they have to accept responsibility for themselves. There's nobody there to be responsible for them. And not only do they grow inside, but you keep them out of trouble. You keep them busy.
I want
And
to answer that.
it was expensive. It was expensive.
I want to answer that, Cyrex, but I want to see if you'll come up and ask it first. Otherwise, I'll answer it in the chat if you're not able to. But who was I talking about this with? We were
Is
talking
Zyrex
about.
single? Are you single, hun?
I don't know if she is or not. But I was talking to somebody, and it was a Senate hearing meeting, and somebody from Senate was questioning somebody from some bank. I want to say it was BMO bank, and they were talking about an entry-level position at their bank as a teller, and they averaged out the cost of living as well as what their financial situation was. And they even broke it down on the simplest term. Like they were like, all right, here's a lady. She might be a teller. She's got one kid, and we're going to put her in a studio apartment. So where they're sharing a bedroom. There's only one bedroom in the whole apartment. And the mom and the kid are, so they were very financially, what would you call it? Savvy. Like they didn't need to have a 2-bedroom or something like that. They were trying to save money. They bought a studio. They still were under by like $600 a month for being able to afford to live.
That happens. That's what inflation has done to the middle class.
And she said, just FYI, I might have a shitty mic. And no, I'm married with kids.
Oh, even better. Okay, I have a suggestion.
She's going to come up and join us. So, yes, it's okay if you have a shitty mic, but I feel like this is a good question to ask us.
Yeah, I have a real good suggestion. I can tell her what we did.
Because I think there's a lot of reasons why things aren't the same as when our parents were. But I think that's with every generation, and I think that has to do with each younger generation is going to be rebelling against their parents. I think it's natural. and they don't want to be the same. They want to be individuals, and I think it's more of a human characteristic. But there's reasons fiscally and financially why we're not able to obtain the same thing when it comes to like single family incomes to double.
It was
family
already
incomes.
happening by the time my husband and I had my son. It was getting to the point where we just couldn't.
Where you
afford-
had to work?
Yeah,
Like
I
where
had to
women
work.
had to work? Okay.
Yeah, because all of a sudden prices were going up because of the price freeze when it was released, and the gas prices, everything went up.
So let me ask
now
you another.
now we're panicking. So he came up with a plan, and that's
Let me
what I
ask you
want to give
another
this IRS.
question. Let me ask you another question deeper, but on the same topic.
Mhm.
Do you think this happened when women were given more rights? Because for the longest time, when women were considered
In the house, yeah.
in the house, all of their debt was given to the man that they were married to.
Well,
So
you were
if they
able
wanted
to
to go out and
afford. You were able to afford to live on one income.